At 60 they told me I was too old and my work had no value. 7 days later they had to admit the opposite. The price tag landed at $200,000. Glass walls. Cold chairs. A tray of stale muffins nobody touched. Gareth Locke watched me like I was a calendar reminder he meant to delete. Selene Voss kept her tablet face down, as if eye contact might cost extra. Ivy Calder from HR arranged her pen perfectly parallel to the folder, then pretended she wasn't there. Elaine, Gareth said, voice smooth, we appreciate your tenure, but the company's moving fast. We need people who scale. People who scale, I repeated. My automations don't scale? Selene exhaled through her nose. Your workflows are fine, but they're artisanal. Handmade disasters, Gareth added, half smiling. Invisible work. Hard to quantify. Easy to replace. I looked at the whiteboard behind them. Last quarter's targets half erased. The marker squeaked when Selene had written them yesterday. I'd heard it from the hall. That sound sticks. People forget numbers. They remember irritation. You asked for a raise, Ivy said, soft. A significant one. I tied it to retention and SLA compliance, I said. Which is what I run. Garrett's smile didn't move. We're not paying premiums for maintenance energy. We need growth. Vision. Vision that runs on the maintenance you don't value, I said. Clear. Selene slid a paper forward. Performance improvement plan. 60 days. We'll pair you with a junior to document your, legacy processes. You want me to train my replacement, I said. Don't be dramatic, Gareth said. You'll either adjust or you won't. Either way, the company keeps moving. Ivy was quiet. That was her skill, non-committal presence. We can discuss a transition if you prefer, Elaine. With respect. With respect, I said. You're telling me I'm too old and my work has no value. Silence. A blink from Gareth. No one said too old. You implied it, I said. Efficiency. Scale. Fast culture. I've been doing the slow part that keeps you out of lawsuits and refunds. Selene tapped the paper. We're offering structure. I read the PIP. Vague verbs. Impossible timeframes. A line about handoff readiness. Clean corporate language for. Step aside. I put the paper back. No. Gareth tilted his head. No to. No to the plan. No to babysitting whoever you throw at this. No to the idea that the only work that counts is whatever shows up in a slide. He leaned back. Then what would you like to do, Elaine? Leave, I said. Ivy's pen froze. Selene looked relieved, like a meeting ended early. Gareth checked the clock on the wall and pretended it was a thought. We'll prepare the separation docs, Ivy said. 2-week severance, PTO payout, standard NDA. You'll need a proper handover, Selene added. Be reasonable. I've been reasonable for 22 years, I said. You can manage a week without me. Gareth lifted a brow. We'll be fine. Of course, I said. You said my work has no value. I stood. The room reflected me 3 times in the glass. Once in the wall, once in Gareth's watch, once in the black tablet screen. I looked older in the one on the glass. Not a problem. Age is leverage when the other side assumes it's a weakness. Ivy escorted me to the door. Elaine, if you reconsider. I won't, I said. Your keycard will stay active through Friday. I won't need it. I walked the long hall. Sales laughed 2 rooms down. Ops was arguing about a broken intake form. IT's door was closed with a printed sign. Tickets only. People moved around me like I wasn't there. Funny. The building was loud when no one knew where the sound came from. I cleared my desk in 10 minutes. No plants. No photo frames. Just a slim binder with my own notes and a clean thumb drive with nothing on it but personal files. The rest stayed. The documentation they never read, the guides they never followed, the warnings they ignored. I left my badge on the keyboard. Habit made me align it with the edge. Habit is what kept this place running. In the lobby, the receptionist tried a smile. Big day. Apparently, I said. Outside, the air hit warmer than I expected. I sat in my car and didn't start it. The phone buzzed 3 times. 2 Slack pings and a calendar cancellation. Efficient. I watched the doors. No one ran after me. Good. Dignity first. I drove to a diner 3 blocks away. Coffee. Plain omelet. I opened my notebook and wrote 3 lines. Vendor admin contact. Contract language, ownership and transfer. Create consultant package. Not poetry. Just sequence. People think revenge is loud. It isn't. Revenge that works is a checklist. I called the vendor support line, the one that bypasses chat scripts. The rep recognized my name. We'd solved their bug months ago. I confirmed the account details and the standing policy. Admin rights require admin consent to transfer. She read the clause back to me. I didn't record it. I didn't need to. I had the original emails where Selene approved my role, and the invoices paid by finance. The trail existed. I hadn't hidden anything. They had just never looked. Next, I emailed myself the final state of 3 dashboards. Uptime, renewals, and pipeline SLA credits pending. No screenshots. Just exports. Clean, boring, dated. The kind of thing auditors love. Then I waited. Gareth sent a one-line message at 4:12 p.m. Let's be adults about handover. Come in tomorrow? I replied. No. Wish you the best. At 6:03 p.m. Jonas Reddick from sales tried. Elaine, quick favor? Demo locked up midstream. Any trick for routing around the portal? No trick, I wrote. Follow the runbook. At 9:40 p.m. Ivy. We'll courier the docs. Please confirm address. I did. I slept. No drama. No speeches to the mirror. In the morning I walked, paid a bill, and checked my inbox. 3 messages from unknown clients reached my personal email. A spillover from old contact forms when leadership decided to make us more accessible. The forms were still mapped to me. I read the subject lines. The words access, urgent, and contract repeated like a rhythm. On day 3, Jonas left a voicemail that started calm and ended fast. Okay. Look, we just need a patch. Clients are nervous. Can you call me? I didn't. Not yet. On day 5, a terse email from legal. We need to coordinate an administrative change with the vendor. Please advise. Happy to advise, I wrote. Under a consulting agreement. No response for 5 hours. Then a calendar invite. Subject. Transition conversation. Participants. Gareth, Selene, legal, Amara Klein. Location video. Time tomorrow 10 a.m. I accepted. Before the call, I stacked my papers by relevance. Approval emails. Vendor policy. Invoice copies. Nothing flashy. No traps. Just facts. At 10 a.m. The camera showed Gareth's neutral face, Selene's tight jaw, Amara's expressionless calm. Elaine, Gareth said. We need your cooperation. You'll get it, I said. Within a contract. Let's be practical, Selene said. It's a simple transfer. Nothing simple about policy, I said. You signed it. Amara cut in. Elaine. Are you willing to assist under a consulting arrangement? Yes. Gareth's mouth compressed. How much? I'll send terms, I said. Fair ones. He glanced left then back. We're bleeding time. I know, I said. You told me my work had no value. No one spoke. The silence held long enough to register. Send the proposal, Amara said. We'll review quickly. Do, I said. I ended the call. No toast. No grin at the ceiling. I drafted the document in plain language. Scope, timelines, fees, non-interference, indemnity, prepayment. I attached the vendor clause for context. I hit send. By evening, Jonas texted again. Clients on edge. Renewals slipping. We're at risk of losing $120,000 this week alone. I put the phone away. Humiliation is a good opening scene. Sets the stakes. But the story doesn't end in the conference room. Starts there. Tomorrow they would decide if their pride was worth another 6 figures. The Monday after I left, the office carried on like nothing had changed. Gareth did his usual lap. Selene parked herself in ops. Ivy sent her HR all-staff positivity memo. Everyone convinced themselves the machine would keep humming. But the machine wasn't built to hum without me. The client portal wasn't just a login page. It was layers. Nightly batch jobs, license verifications, renewal triggers, SLA dashboards, compliance checks. A dozen moving parts that had to be aligned, nudged, restarted when they stuck. No glossy presentation slides showed it, but that was the skeleton of the company. And the skeleton's spine ran straight through my name. I'd set it up 6 months earlier when we upgraded licenses. Gareth wanted the cheapest plan. Selene pushed for the fast rollout. Finance signed without reading the fine print. And there it was, the named admin account mine. Paid with company funds but under my ID. Transfer required admin consent. Black and white. They all signed off. They just never cared enough to notice. Inside the building, I knew what was already happening. The badge logs would start piling errors. Failed authentications, locked out queues, denied permissions. By day 2, the red marks would show up on the SLA dashboard. By day 3, client renewals would choke. Jonas Reddick in sales would be the first to smell smoke. He lived off commissions. If the portal blocked his demos, his numbers would sink fast. He'd start knocking on IT's door, yelling about broken workflows. IT would blame Ops. Ops would blame licenses. Selene would insist it was a minor glitch. Gareth would insist it was under control. But numbers don't argue. Numbers bleed. I had the exports to prove it. Renewal pipeline at $90,000 due that week. SLA credits already creeping toward $20,000. Penalties set to spike if downtime passed 72 hours. The system wasn't collapsing yet, but the countdown had started. I didn't need to sabotage anything. All I had to do was wait. The office had no idea that every dashboard, every red flag, every angry client email was just the echo of a decision they made in that glass room when they told me my work had no value. 7 days. That was the runway I'd given them. And on the 8th they'd be standing in front of me again. This time not with smirks but with open checkbooks. By Wednesday the cracks showed. I didn't need a spy inside the building to know it. The portal login logs told me enough. Failed authentication stacking by the hour. Error counts climbing like blood pressure. Jonas Reddick called first. He didn't waste time with greetings. Elaine, the demo died on me again. Client was ready to sign. 90 grand gone. You know what's wrong? I let the silence breathe before answering. Follow the runbook. Runbook doesn't fix this, Jonas hissed. This is structural. Then ask Ops. Ops is Selene. Selene says it's IT. IT says it's licenses. I'm saying it's you. He wasn't wrong. But I let him hang there, breathing into the line. Eventually he swore and cut the call. That afternoon my inbox filled with a forwarded HR message. One of those everything's fine blasts from Ivy Calder. Transition on track. Thanks to the Ops team for supporting knowledge transfer. Translation. Panic control. I knew better. By then the SLA penalties were already ticking. Hightower Logistics had an active contract clause. $50,000 owed if the portal failed more than 72 hours. That timer was running. Thursday morning my phone rang again. This time it wasn't Jonas. It was Selene herself. Her voice came sharp, like she'd been practicing control in the mirror. Elaine, let's not make this harder than it is. Just give IT your credentials so we can transition cleanly. Policy says transfer requires admin consent, not just credentials, I said. You signed it. You're misinterpreting. No. I'm quoting. She went quiet. I imagined her scrolling old emails, the ones with her initials under the vendor agreement. The paper trail wasn't my trap. It was hers. Look, she said finally. You've had a long career. Let's handle this like adults. You don't want to burn bridges. I almost laughed. Burn bridges? They'd already set fire to the only bridge that mattered when Gareth called me invisible. What do you want? She asked. I'll draft terms, I said. You'll review them. Her sigh was the sound of someone realizing the ground wasn't under her feet anymore. Send them to legal. Of course. By evening, Gareth himself broke the silence. A single email, no subject line. Elaine, name your number. That was the first honest sentence he'd ever sent me. I didn't reply right away. Timing is currency. And I had plenty left to spend. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't need to. 6 months before Gareth shoved that paper across the table, I'd made one move that mattered. The license upgrade. They wanted it fast, cheap, done yesterday. I offered to handle it. Selene approved in a 3-line email. Finance paid without blinking. Vendor account. Elaine Mercer. That made me the named administrator. The only one. No shadow accounts. No backups. Transfer required my written consent. Vendor policy section 4. 3. I highlighted it back then. Nobody read it. So when Selene called demanding just the credentials, she was already dead in the water. Credentials didn't transfer ownership. Only I could do that. The vendor knew me by name. I'd fixed one of their bugs a year ago, wrote half the workaround they still used. Support calls started with, Elaine, good to hear from you again. Try bluffing past that. Inside the company, Ops thought they could rebuild. IT thought they could clone. They didn't realize the integrations, billing triggers, SLA counters, renewal dashboards were chained to the admin ID. My ID. You could copy the frame, but the backbone stayed locked. That's why I didn't flinch when Gareth emailed. Name your number. Because the number was already in my head. $40,000 onboarding fee. $15,000 per month for 6 months. Success bonus capped at $75,000, tied to client retention. All official. All billable. No threats. Just business. I drafted the proposal. Plain language. Scope. Timeline. Non-interference. Payment in advance. Sent it to legal Amara Klein. An hour later Jonas texted. Portals choking. Renewals frozen. Clients furious. Losses already past $120,000. Perfect timing. When a system fails, people panic. But when money fails, they listen. I leaned back, closed the laptop and waited for Amara's reply. Tomorrow they'd realize it wasn't a negotiation. It was a rescue. By Monday morning their smooth transition collapsed. The portal stalled at login. Clients saw spinning wheels instead of dashboards. Renewal invoices froze in draft. Support tickets piled with the same subject line. Access denied. Jonas called me again, voice clipped. 3 demos dead. 90 grand walking out the door. This isn't a glitch. It's not, I said. Fix it. Not without a contract. He cursed, hung up. Inside, Ops tried to mask the fire. Selene ordered IT to reroute. IT tried. Every attempt hit the same wall. Admin authorization required. My ID. By noon, finance flagged the first number. $45,000 in pending renewals stalled. By 2, legal circulated the SLA clause. 3 days of downtime meant a $50,000 penalty owed to Hightower Logistics. The clock had started. At 4 p.m. Gareth sent a company-wide email. Minor service disruption. Ops addressing with urgency. No client impact. I almost laughed. No client impact? Jonas had already texted me a screenshot of a cancellation email. Contract worth $30,000 gone in one click. That night another call. Jonas again, this time whispering like he was in a parking garage. They're lying to the board. Clients are furious. We're bleeding. What's your number? I already sent it to Amara. Cut the legal crap, Elaine. Just tell me. 40 upfront. 15 a month. Success bonus capped at 75. Silence, then a low whistle. That's a lot. Not compared to what you're losing. He didn't argue. He just said, they'll call you tomorrow. And hung up. By the end of day 1, the losses were real. $90,000 installed renewals. $30,000 canceled outright. SLA penalty countdown already halfway. And still Gareth hadn't said the one word that mattered. Yes. Tuesday morning the penalty timer hit 48 hours. Hightower Logistics sent a formal notice. Per contract terms, $50,000 penalty for unresolved service interruption will be enforced if downtime exceeds 72 hours. Legal couldn't bury that one. Amara forwarded it to Gareth, Selene, and the board. No subject line. Just the clause highlighted in yellow. IT tried their last workaround. They spun up a shadow instance, patched half the integrations. It collapsed within 2 hours. Billing triggers failed, SLA dashboards blanked, renewal counters stuck. Authorization error. The logs repeated. Always the same root cause. Admin ID mismatch. Mine. Jonas cornered Selene in Ops. Loud enough that the whole floor heard. Clients are walking. You told the board this was minor. 90,000 is already gone. Add the penalty and we're past 150. Selene's face stayed flat. We're handling it. With what? You can't even log in. Ops went quiet. Everyone knew he was right. By noon Gareth called me. His voice was steel-wrapped in static. Elaine, let's cut this drama. Just give us the keys. I don't have keys. I have rights. Different thing. You're holding us hostage. No, I said. You're in breach of your own process. I'm offering a fix. He didn't respond. Just hung up. At 5 p.m. Amar finally wrote. We are prepared to discuss terms. Please confirm availability tomorrow at 10 a.m. That was it. No pleasantries. Just surrender, typed in legal font. The SLA clock ticked louder. 24 hours left before the penalty hit. And they knew the only person who could stop it. Wednesday morning started with a flood of copied threads. Someone in ops forgot to trim the CC list, and my personal inbox caught the spillover. The subject line said it all. Escalation. Client portal access failure. Gareth wrote at 7:42 a.m. This is an IT issue. Fix it. Stop wasting time blaming process. IT replied at 7:59 a.m. Root cause is license ownership. Admin rights tied to Mercer. No technical workaround without transfer. Selene at 8:05 a.m. We can't rely on her. Rebuild from scratch if needed. IT at 8:22 a.m. Rebuild timeline 3 weeks. Estimated cost $180,000. Client impact catastrophic. Then Amara at 8:30 a.m. Clause 4. 3. Ownership transfer requires consent of named administrator. Only path forward is engagement with Mercer. That was the first time anyone in leadership used my name on record. Not legacy processes. Not invisible work. My name. By noon a second threat hit. Jonas again, this time to Gareth directly. You keep saying minor issue. Clients are threatening lawsuits. Another $60,000 renewal canceled today. Stop lying to the board. No reply from Gareth. At 2:15 p.m. Amar messaged me directly. Short, formal, no small talk. Elaine, please confirm willingness to discuss consulting terms at 10 a.m. tomorrow. This is now urgent. I typed back one line. Confirmed. For the rest of the day, the emails kept circling the same truth. Rebuild meant 3 weeks and nearly $200,000. SLA penalties triggered in less than 12 hours. Only one name could unlock the system. Mine. Tomorrow they'd face me on camera. And for the first time they wouldn't be the one setting the agenda. That night my phone buzzed at 9:47 p.m. The caller ID said Jonas Reddick. I let it ring twice before answering. Elaine, he said low and fast. I'm in the garage. Level B2. Nobody can hear me here. You sound like you're hiding. I am. Garrett's in denial, Selene's faking calm. Amara's quoting policy. Clients are circling like sharks. We've already lost 150. Another 100 will vanish by Friday. I didn't say anything. The silence worked better than words. Jonas exhaled. What do you want? I sent terms to Amara. I'm not asking about Amara. I'm asking you. Straight. 40,000 upfront, I said. 15 a month for 6 months. Success bonus capped at 75. All in writing. Jesus, he muttered. That's heavy. Not compared to $200,000 bleeding out in a week. He paced. I could hear shoes hitting concrete. They'll fight. They'll call it extortion. It's not. It's a contract. Clean. Auditable. Legal. He stopped walking. The echo cut. And if they don't sign? Then they rebuild. 3 weeks. 180 lost minimum. Plus penalties. Jonas let out a short laugh, bitter. You've got them cornered. No. They cornered themselves. I just drew the line. Another pause, then softer. Elaine, between us, I hope you get every penny. They treated you like trash. You kept this place alive. I didn't answer that. Compliments don't pay invoices. I'll push them, he said. But tomorrow be ready. Garrett's pride is a wall. Walls fall, I said. He chuckled once, tired, then hung up. I set the phone down, poured a glass of water, and wrote one more line in my notebook. Tomorrow 10 a.m. They break. 10 a.m. Sharp, the video window filled. Gareth at the head, Selene stiff beside him. Amara calm in the center frame. Jonas joined late, hair a mess, tie half loose. Gareth opened. Elaine, we're here to resolve this. Let's be adults. I kept my voice steady. You have my proposal. Amara nodded. We've reviewed. Please summarize for the record. 40,000 onboarding. 15,000 per month for 6 months. Success bonus tied to client retention. Capped at 75. Jonas whistled under his breath. Gareth shot him a look. Selene cut in. That's outrageous. We can rebuild for less. Amar didn't flinch. Rebuild costs are estimated at 180 and 3 weeks of downtime. Losses could exceed 300. The silence stretched. Gareth finally leaned forward. Elaine, you're asking us to pay nearly $200,000 for access to our own system. No, I said. I'm asking you to pay for survival. The system works. You just don't own it. Selene snapped. You exploited a loophole. I followed policy. You approved it. Every signature's in the record. Amara interjected smoothly. The contract is enforceable. We have no legal grounds to compel transfer without Ms. Mercer's consent. That word consent landed like a hammer. Jonas finally spoke. We've already lost 150. Another 60 walked yesterday. If you want numbers, here they are. Elaine's deal saves us at least 200. Your pride doesn't. Gareth's jaw tightened. He hated that Jonas, of all people, was siding with me. I leaned closer to the camera. You asked me to name my number. That's the number. Pay it and your portal is stable within 24 hours. Refuse and watch the losses climb. Amara's eyes flicked down, probably at her notes. When she looked back up, her voice was final. We'll revert with a decision by end of day. The screen went black. I closed my notebook. One line added. Decision today. And they already knew which way it would go. By noon, the board was in emergency session. I wasn't invited, but Jonas kept a phone in his pocket and let me hear enough. Gareth opened strong. We cannot reward extortion. It sets precedent. One director cut him short. We've already lost 150. Another 100 will vanish by Friday. That precedent is called bankruptcy. Selene jumped in. We can rebuild. 3 weeks, 180. It buys us independence. IT's rep corrected her. 3 weeks minimum. Realistically 5. Every day costs us 60 grand in churn. Another director. Do the math. Rebuild is 300 plus. Her contract tops out at 190. Which loss do you prefer? The room cracked open. Gareth. We cannot let an ex-employee dictate terms. Jonas finally spoke, loud enough for the phone mic to catch it clean. Then you explain to clients why renewals worth 200 grand are frozen. I won't. Silence. Then Amara, calm as stone. Legally, there's no path but engagement. Mercer holds ownership. Vendor will not override. Rebuild is not viable. Contract is the only option. A director's voice cut in sharp. Then why are we still talking? Authorize it. Selene tried one last swing. We'll look weak. No, the director said flatly. We already look incompetent. Paying Mercer makes us solvent. That's the difference. The session ended. Gareth left red-faced. Selene slammed her tablet shut. Jonas texted me 2 words at 1:43 p.m. It's done. By evening, Amara's email arrived in my inbox. 1 sentence. The board accepts your terms. Draft contract attached. I read it twice. Clean. No edits. The building had shifted. Pride was finished. Money had spoken. Tomorrow I'd sign. Before signing, I sent one more package. Not to Amara. To the board. 4 emails PDF'd in sequence. The vendor upgrade request, approved by Selene Voss. The finance confirmation, processed without review. The vendor's admin account creation receipt, with my name in bold. And the final implementation complete note, signed off by Selene herself. Each dated. Each time-stamped. Each tied to badge logs that showed me in the office at the time of execution. No ambiguity. No loopholes. At 9:07 a.m. One director replied, clear. Proceed with Mercer. Selene's silence was louder than Gareth's rage. Aye. By 10 a.m. Amara called. Calm, clipped, professional. The board accepts your contract as is. They also noted the documentation you shared. It eliminates any internal debate. That was the point, I said. Payment will be wired in full before transition begins. Standard indemnity clauses are attached. Do you have revisions? None. Send the final draft. Aye. Minutes later, Gareth broke his silence with a 1-line email. Congratulations, Elaine. You've destroyed your reputation. I typed back. No, Gareth. I've defined it. Then I signed the contract. The money hit my account before lunch. 40,000 wired clean. The first milestone. All that was left was the flip. And when the system turned green again, the board would know exactly who kept them alive. We met over video at noon. Amara led, calm as always. Gareth looked like he hadn't slept. Selene didn't turn on her camera. Jonas smirked in the corner frame, like he'd bet on the outcome and won. Amara spoke first. Contract is finalized. Payment confirmed. Transition will proceed under Mercer's direction. I nodded. Here are my conditions for the record. No interference once the transfer begins. All communication routed through me. SLA credits offered to key clients come from the success bonus pool. I control the timeline. Amara. Agreed. Gareth. This is humiliating. I look straight at the camera. This is business. He muted himself. At 12:20 p.m. I called the vendor support line. The rep answered cheerful. Elaine, good to hear from you. Ready for the admin transfer? Ready. They pulled up the account, confirmed the board's approval letter, then asked the only question that mattered. Do you, as named administrator, authorize transfer under your supervision? Yes. They logged it. Legally binding. Recorded. Selene finally unmuted. How long will this take? 24 hours, I said. If you stay out of the way. Jonas chuckled. That's the best deal you're getting. No one argued. By 1 p.m. The portal was in transition mode. Status lights read across the dashboard. Error bands glowing like warning signs. But for the first time in a week, there was movement. The system was shifting back under control. And every step was mine to direct. The transfer started at noon. Vendor support on the line. Amara shadowing quietly. Gareth pacing in and out of frame like a caged animal. The dashboard went black for a moment, then lit up in full red. Every integration flagged. Billing jobs frozen. Renewal triggers dead. Selene muttered. This looks worse than before. It always looks worse before it works, I said. By 2 p.m. The first green check appeared. Just one. A reconciliation batch that had been stuck since Monday finally cleared. 47 invoices pushed through in a single sweep. Jonas leaned into his webcam, grinning like a man who'd just found oxygen. Holy hell, he whispered. It's moving again. At 4, the SLA dashboard reloaded. The penalty counter stopped climbing. The screen showed 70% queue reduction in under 2 hours. Gareth saw it too. He tried to keep his face still, but his shoulders dropped like he'd been carrying a truck all week. Don't celebrate yet, I told them. The system's fragile. Keep pushing and it'll break again. Let it settle. No one argued. By evening, half the board had logged in to watch the live status. Green replacing red 1 bar at a time. The silence in that call was louder than any applause. At 9 p.m. The last error cleared. The portal stood solid. Elaine, the vendor rep said, voice flat with routine. Full functionality restored. That was it. Not dramatic. Just a fact. But everyone in that room knew what it meant. The bleeding had stopped. And I was the one holding the tourniquet. The morning after the portal came back online, I started dialing. Not Gareth. Not Selene. The clients. First was Hightower Logistics. Their operations director picked up on the second ring. Voice sharp with weeks of frustration. Is this finally stable, Elaine, or am I wasting my time? It's stable, I said. And you're not wasting time. You're owed an explanation and a credit. There was silence, then a grudging. Go on. I laid it out. Downtime resolved, renewal pipeline unfrozen, service credits issued against the penalty clause. Not excuses. Numbers. He listened. At the end he said, we'll hold. Contract stands. That one call locked in $140,000 of renewals. Next, a healthcare client who'd already drafted a termination letter. I caught them before the courier arrived. The portal is back. You'll have performance reports in your inbox within the hour. If we miss another benchmark, you walk free, no penalties. They tore up the letter. Another 50,000 saved. By noon, Jonas texted me 3 words. You're saving us. But I wasn't saving them. I was saving the part that mattered, the clients, the contracts, the money. Meanwhile, Gareth stayed silent. Selene too. Neither wanted to face the fact that the woman they dismissed as invisible was the only reason the company was breathing. By evening, churn risk had collapsed. What looked like a 180 loss 48 hours earlier had turned into retention gains. Clients stopped shouting. They started paying again. And every invoice cleared under my watch. I closed the day with one note in my book. They'll pay my bonus. They don't have a choice. The portal was steady. Clients were quiet. That was my signal. I sent the first invoice at 9 a.m. Sharp. 40,000 onboarding fee already agreed and wired, plus the first 15 for the month. Attached was a clean progress summary. Credits issued, contracts saved, renewals cleared. No fluff. Just proof. An hour later, finance confirmed receipt. Processed. Paid. Simple as that. Gareth finally broke his silence. A clipped email. You're milking this. Don't push your luck. I forwarded it to Amara. Her reply came back in 10 minutes. Ignore him. Contract stands. Selene didn't say a word. She'd seen the documentation I dropped in front of the board, the emails with her signature, the logs tying her to the approval. She knew better than to fight. Jonas called just before lunch. You know they hate every second of this, right? I know. But the board? They're calling you a stabilizer. First time I've heard that word in years. I let him talk. He wanted relief. I wanted confirmation. And I got it. By 3 p.m. The second milestone hit. Client churn officially reversed. Another clause in my contract triggered. Success bonus unlocked. I updated my notes. Invoice 1 paid. Bonus path cleared. And for the first time, Gareth realized this wasn't just survival. It was leverage. 2 days later, Amara scheduled an internal audit. She didn't ask permission from Gareth or Selene. She announced it to the board. The auditors weren't flashy. 3 people, neutral expressions, laptops open. They went line by line. Ticket history, renewal delays, SLA breaches. Every arrow pointed to the same failure. Leadership ignored warnings and skipped risk planning. One auditor read aloud. Email dated March 12th. Subject: Admin ownership risk. Sender: Elaine Mercer. Recipient: Selene Voss. He looked up. Did Ops respond to this? Selene's jaw clenched. We prioritized rollout speed. Translation. She buried it. Then came the logs. Badge entries showing me working late nights during rollout. The exact timestamps matching approval emails. Proof I had flagged risks, proof they had waved them off. By the end of the session, the findings were blunt. No backup plan. No succession protocol. Reliance on single admin account ignored. Warnings documented, not acted upon. One director leaned back. This isn't negligence. This is arrogance. Gareth didn't argue. For the first time, he stayed quiet. The board's recommendation landed at sunset. Adopt Mercer's standards as company policy. Immediate. Amara summarized it in one line. Elaine, your procedures are now the template. I nodded. I'd been dismissed as invisible. Now my work was law. The audit report had barely cooled when Gareth reached out. Not through Amara. Direct. Elaine, his email began. We'd like to bring you back into the company. Full-time. Your old role plus a raise. Stability for everyone. I almost laughed. Stability was the last thing he had to offer. I replied with 3 words. Not interested. Contract. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Gareth's voice was tight. Controlled rage behind a polite front. You're making this harder than it needs to be. No, Gareth. I'm making it simple. You belong here. You know this place better than anyone. That's why I don't belong here. Not as staff. He inhaled sharply. Then what do you want? I gave him the number. 1-year governance retainer, 180,000, quarterly performance adjustments, full autonomy. Dead air. I could hear him calculating or maybe choking. Finally, that's robbery. No, that's cheaper than your last mistake. The line clicked dead. Half an hour later, Amara called, calm as always. The board will take your proposal seriously. Expect a response tomorrow. She didn't need to say more. Gareth had lost control of the narrative. And I had just set the price of my silence. The board moved fast. By Monday morning, Gareth was stepping down to pursue new opportunities. Selene was reassigned, stripped of decision power. Jonas, the salesman who once cursed at me in hallways, was promoted to interim head of sales ops. On paper it was a victory, but victories in corporations never come clean. There's always a shadow attached. Mine came on Tuesday. At 6:30 a.m. My phone lit up with a vendor alert. Critical escalation. Duplicate admin request flagged. I logged in, scanned the trail. Someone inside the company had tried to spin up a second administrator profile, illegally. If it had worked, they could have locked me out of my own contract. I knew the fingerprints. The request came from an ops machine routed through a VPN. Amateur work but desperate. The attempt traced back to one name. I wasn't surprised to see: Selene Voss. It was reckless. Dangerous. And if the vendor thought I'd authorized it, the entire system could have collapsed again. I hated them. I called Amara. Someone tried to override my role. Her voice stayed calm. Do you have evidence? I have logs. Timestamped IPs, device signatures. It's Selene. Silence on her end. Then, leave it to me. By noon, Selene was escorted out of the building. Security didn't make a scene, but everyone in the lobby saw it. The woman who once told me I was replaceable walked out with nothing but her tablet and a box. Problem solved? Not yet. The override attempt left the portal unstable. Half the license keys registered duplicate checks. Clients logged in fine, but back-end reports began duplicating records. If left unchecked, financials would show phantom revenue. That was worse than downtime. False numbers killed trust faster than outages. I rolled up my sleeves. Years in that building meant I knew exactly where the code tripped. The legacy script for renewals, one I'd patched 3 times over the years, was the weak point. I dug through the archives, pulled the last stable version and forced a rollback. 3 hours later the errors cleared. Finance dashboards reset. No phantom dollars. No lawsuits. Jonas called, breathless. You just saved us from a bomb we didn't even see. I saw it, I said. I've been watching that script for a decade. At 5 p.m. Amara sent me a single-line email. Board thanks you. Selene removed permanently. Retainer offer incoming. The building was quieter without her, without Gareth. But I didn't mistake quiet for safe. I'd been around too long to believe in safe. So I added a new line in my notebook. Problem solved. More will come. Because in corporate survival, stability doesn't exist. There's only control. And now all of it was mine. The retainer contract arrived Wednesday morning. 1 year, 180,000, quarterly adjustments, full autonomy. The board approved it unanimously. No conditions, no edits. But I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Finance wired the first half within hours. I logged in, checked my account. 6 figures, clean and clear. That kind of money doesn't lie. Still, something felt unfinished. I walked back into the building for the first time since they pushed me out. Same glass walls, same humming fluorescents, same stale coffee smell drifting from the break room. Except this time people stopped moving when they saw me. Some nodded. Some looked away. Jonas clapped me on the shoulder like we were old allies. Ivy from HR didn't even meet my eyes. Her pen couldn't save her now. I rode the elevator up to the 12th floor. The executive wing. The place where Gareth once leaned across a table and told me my work had no value. The office was stripped bare. His nameplate gone, his desk empty. Selene's chair sat in the corner, unplugged and silent. I walked to the same window where I had stood 6 weeks earlier, staring at the city and wondering if I'd been a fool for giving decades to people who never cared. Now the skyline looked different. Not because it had changed, but because I had. Behind me, Jonas spoke quietly. Feels strange, doesn't it? Strange is one word, I said. You did it, Elaine. They'll never say it out loud, but you own this place now. I didn't answer. Ownership wasn't what I wanted. Control was. That afternoon, a small problem surfaced. A client in Europe flagged a delay in data replication. 30 minutes behind. Normally that was nothing. But under the new terms, every minute mattered. I sat down at an empty desk, pulled up the logs. The issue wasn't the portal. It was the old cross-border data pipe Gareth refused to upgrade years ago. One rusty link in a chain that had been ignored. It took me 2 hours to reroute through a newer path I'd lobbied for long ago. The fix worked. The client got their real-time dashboard. Crisis averted. I left the logs open for the board to see. Proof that even their infrastructure owed me. At 6 p.m. The second transfer hit my account, the rest of the onboarding payment. Nearly 200,000 in total revenue locked under my name. I closed my laptop, walked back to the window, and watched the city lights switch on one by one. That's when I realized something. It wasn't about revenge anymore. Revenge had already been served. This was control. And the thing they once called invisible was now the only thing keeping them alive. I didn't walk back into that building again. I didn't need to. My name was already etched into every contract, every policy, every board decision. Looking back, I realized something simple. Power isn't about titles or offices with glass walls. It's about knowing the system better than the people who think they own it. They called me invisible, replaceable, too old. But invisibility is an advantage. You can't defend against what you refuse to see. That's the real lesson. So I'll ask you, how many invisible people are running the systems around you? The ones you think you control? Because one day they might decide to remind you exactly how valuable they are. And remember, Every story lives as long as it is remembered. A like is your mark on this story, and a subscription is your ticket to the next one.